Hey there, it's Olivia Spanner here from Olivia's Catastrophe, and today I'm here to give you a big book haul. I've got loads of books to haul in here, and I think that's all the prelude we need. Let's get right down to hauling in these books. So the first book is from Henna from Ladette M. She was unhauling, or is it Lizzie from Bombadil's Bookish Things? Either which way, one of them was unhauling a copy of The Last Tale of the Flower Bride by Roshani Chokshi, and this is a book that has to do with the brides of Dracula, if I believe. And on the back it says, inside every story is a secret, inside every marriage is a lie. And I've heard that it's got like fairy tale-esque writing to it. It's really beautiful writing and hopefully a very nice story. Neither of them like this one very much, but it's a gorgeous edition. I actually have not seen sprayed edges this beautiful before. The sprayed edges are absolutely divine, and that was not what tempted me to read it, but I think seeing the very mixed reactions, people either don't like it or really enjoy it, and I really hope I'm going to be in the camp of people who enjoy it, because I do like purple writing, and I've heard that this is what this is. It just needs to be done well and not in an unfounded way. My old flatmate told me that there's actually a lot of book mail that went to my old flat instead of my new place, even though I told everybody where I was. And one of the books that arrived back there was Immortal Longings by Chloe Gong. And this is a retelling of Antony and Cleopatra, the Shakespeare play, which is one of my favourite Shakespeare plays. So I'm very excited to try a retelling. I've also not read anything by Chloe Gong, but I've actually heard that all of her books are Shakespearean retellings. So that absolutely fascinates me, and clearly I need to correct that and read one for myself. I think the relationship between Antony and Cleopatra is what aligns this with the play, but it's set in a fantasy world, so it's all fantastical otherwise. And I've heard mixed reviews, but again, I am naively and ever hopeful because I just love this original play so much. In that unhaul or like book swap that I did with Lizzie, I got her copy of Defy the Night by Brigid Kemmerer. So I actually have a copy of this in proof, but this is the Fairy Loot special, I think, with sprayed edges, so I was happy to snag that in a trade with her as I unhauled a book to her. I'm going to go ahead and say that this is the gender swapped Robin Hood retelling, and if I'm wrong, I am wrong, but I also know that it has to do with like a plague within the kingdom, and it's one of those fantasy books. I really enjoyed A Curse of Dark and Lonely series, so I'm hoping to enjoy reading more of Brigid Kemmerer's novels. I have also been donating, so I've just been unhauling a lot and donating a lot of books that I've read and don't feel like I need to keep, but that does mean I end up in the charity shop quite often, and every now and again I do pick up a book. So while I was in the charity shop, I saw a really worn down copy of A Man Called Uwe by Fredrik Backman, and this is basically the one that made him big and made him famous, and it's also one of the ones that I haven't read, so I do want to correct that. I know it's about an old man called Uwe, as the title suggests, and it sounds like it's going to be another one of those where there's a healing journey and it's heartwarming and wholesome and people tend to cry at the end. And I've read quite a few Fredrik Backman now, and I just know his style and I really like his writing, so I'm hoping I'll enjoy this, and if I do, I'll actually get myself it in a nice copy. But to be honest, when you're just reading the story for the first time, I don't think you need a pristine new copy to do that. Thank you so much to the publisher for sending a copy of Nightbloom my way. This is longlisted for the Women's Prize as of when I'm filming this. I'm dating this haul, I know, but I was feeling a bit mixed about the long list, but there were a few that stood out to me, and this was one that I really wanted to try. It's following these two women who are really close friends. They're very, very close, and they grow up in the same small town in Ghana, but something happens where they split ways, and one stays in Ghana and one stays in the US. But when a tragedy occurs, it kind of brings their lives back to connection again, and they need to kind of work through their past childhood traumas if they want to be able to get through everything that is to come and to rebuild that relationship. And I'm just interested in reading books set in African countries, so in Ghana, but also it seems like there's a big focus on friendship, and that is something I do really appreciate and enjoy reading about. Jem from The Creepy Geek did a big unhaul of books, and I snagged some of those books from her unhaul, as you do. So I finally got a copy of Gideon the Ninth by Tamsyn Muir. So this is what I understand a sci-fi book with horror vibes, and it's got like non-binary characters and it's super queer, and I think it's sapphic, but I could be wrong, and I've just heard such a range of things about this book, and for the longest time I got the vibe that it wasn't for me, and I can't remember whose review it was, but I saw someone's review and I was like, actually that sounds like it is for me, and maybe I was wrong all along. And so I've had some conversations with people about the book and I'm going to give it a try. So I'm hauling it in, I'm going to give it a try, and because it was from an unhaul, I don't feel that bad if I just DNF it very quickly. So we'll see how I go. I'm apprehensively hopeful. She was also unhauling Bloodmarked by Tracy Deonn, and I have no comments on why I got this because I own Legendborn and I haven't read it, and one of my rules for myself is I can't buy a sequel if I haven't read the first book, but I did take it from her unhaul because it was there and it was a good opportunity, and I feel like I'm gonna love the first one, so let's hope that's the case. I got The Lies of Locke Lamora by Scott Lynch. This is one of those high fantasy books that I've just heard so much about across the grid. Loads of the people that I really liked really loved this one, and I just need to take people's advice when it comes to fantasy books that are like high fantasy and not my usual realm, because everybody was right about Brandon Sanderson and everybody was right about The Name of the Wind, and I enjoyed both of those, so I'm hoping that I'm just going to enjoy this one equally as much as everybody else does. That's my hypothesis for choosing to pick this one from her unhaul. And then I also picked up Cinderella is Dead by Kalynn Bayron. Now when this one came out I wasn't that intrigued by it, but since this one has come out I've really enjoyed You're Not Supposed to Die Tonight by this author, and I've discovered that of all the retellings that we get, the ones I have the highest percentage of enjoying are Cinderella retellings, and I think it's mostly because there are a lot of them, but also it is such a classic story and it's such a good story for like putting different and unique spins on it, so I did eventually come around to the fact that now I want to read this one. There was a book sale on and I picked up a copy of The Cat in the Hat by Dr Seuss. This is a picture book. I have been steadily growing my picture book collection quite a bit because I do enjoy reading picture books, and I have read this one multiple times before. I've read it in the classroom, I've read it multiple times, and it is a classic for a reason. I really enjoy it. I think it's really fun and entertaining, and Dr Seuss knows what he's doing with this story. I think that completes my collection of the Dr Seuss books that I want to have and own, but yeah, very happy that I just picked this one up in the sale. I won a giveaway from Emily, a short book lover, who gives away her proofs that are of a marginalized community, and it's open to people who are within that marginalized community so that she can pass them along to people who might really value reading them. And I happen to win one, Where Sleeping Girls Lie by Faridah Àbíké-Íyímídé, and this is a young adult, I think it's murder mystery set at a boarding school, and it's sapphic as well if I'm correct. Let me just look at this guide here. Yeah, slow burn sapphic romance, boarding school vibes, dark academia and dark secrets. This is chunkier than I expected it to be, but I've heard very good things about this author and I have been enjoying my young adult mysteries. I said murder mystery, but I think it's just mystery. I'm not sure about murder yet, but yes. Looking forward to trying this one too. So this is another one that's an unhaul from Gem, and that is The Henna Wars by Adiba Jagirdar. I read The Do's and Donuts of Love by this author and I quite liked it. It didn't rock my world, but I had a very good time, but this is the one that everybody recommends as the starting place for her books, so I'm looking forward to trying it. I know it's a sapphic romance young adult contemporary. I've been in the mood for young adult contemporaries quite a bit lately as well, so I'm looking forward to delving in and just reading more and more of them. I'm having a jolly good time. We have A Fine Balance by Rohinton Mistry. This is another one that I got at the charity shop when I was dropping off books at one point. I don't actually know that much about what this book is about. I've just heard people say it's really a very good read and an emotional read, and I do love my sad emotional reads, and it's chunky but that it's worth its time, and so I'm going to pick it up. I'm in the mood for bigger books lately, and literary fiction has been an up and down for me this year. I'm not really that much in the mood for it. I'm more in my genre fiction mood, but every now and again I do pick one up, so shall see how this goes. When we had the booktube meetup, I had a book that Charlie from Charlie Book Reads wanted, and so I brought it to her and I was like, oh, I'll just give it to you. But she was like, oh no, I've got a book that I think you might like. So she gave me Miss Ice Sandwich by Miko Kawakami, and this is a really short translated book. someone who the narrator has named Miss Ice Cream Sandwich, and she seems to be really prickly and not at all friendly, but our narrator is smitten with her, and it's about their story and what happens with that. I am curious. I've wanted to try something by Cara for a long time, and I feel like sometimes a short book is a very nice way to get into their writing style and see if it's going to be for you. I've also been reading a lot of like East Asian translated books lately, so this was basically everything I'm looking for at the moment, so thank you, Charlie. Very excited about the fact that the final book from Mina and the Undead series is out. This is Mina and the Cult. It's the third and final book in the trilogy. I still have to read the second one, so I'm not going to tell you the synopsis of this, but I have read the first one and it's such a fun book to start the series off with, and it's following Mina, who goes to spend time with her sister in this small town, and she gets included into the haunted mansion situation as her job, and she's one of the people who is an actor for the haunted mansion. But when a murder actually happens and they find someone has actually turned up dead within the haunted mansion with puncture wounds in their neck, which suggest vampires, it kind of leads them on a journey, and there are vampires, I will say, and there is a very nice romance in it too, and it's also got all of the like mystery elements that you want from a vampire young adult fun kind of book. So I'm looking forward to continuing on the series and completing out the trilogy. And we have here, actually this is another one from Gems Unhaul. I don't know how I've ordered this, but this is Wild Beauty by Anna Marie Mucklemore, and I really don't know anything about this other than the fact that it's by this author, and I picked it up because I know that Cara from Wild Book Garden has been recommending their works for so long and has read so many of Anna Marie's books, so I'm looking forward to trying one for myself at long last after years of following Cara raving about their work, and yeah, looking forward to that quite a bit. So I think I've mentioned before about Waypoint Book Box subscription, and in this book box you get sent 2 books, and one of them is you get sent 3 options and then you can choose one, and they're kind of catered towards your reading taste, and the other one is a surprise book. And how Hannah, the owner of this book box and this bookshop that's attached to it, chooses for you is that she will, when you subscribe, take your Goodreads and also a form that you can fill out if you don't want to give up your Goodreads, where you can say what genres you like, what you've enjoyed reading lately, and she will go through and meticulously select books that she thinks you may not have heard of but would be very suited for your reading taste and reading mood at the current month. And so I got my full moon book box subscription, and these were the 2 books within it. But if you want to try the full moon book box subscription box, which I highly recommend, you can get some percentage off of your box by using the code OliviaFM23. And so I highly recommend you do that because I got selected 2 brilliant picks for me. So the first one I got is Driftglass by Samuel R. Delany, and this is a short story collection, and Samuel R. Delany is known for being one of the like flagstone pioneers in the Afrofuturism genre. So I'm very excited to finally read something by this author because he's just like one of the Afrofuturism greats, and I do enjoy a good short story collection. So perfect for my mood and perfect for the Afrofuturism. I've also mentioned already, I've been reading a lot of young adult contemporary books, so the other book that was chosen for me is Everyone's Thinking It by Alima Omotoni, and this is actually one that was on my wish list, so I'm very happy that I got it. It's a young adult contemporary with black main characters, and it's set at a boarding school where one of these girls is a photographer who's been secretly taking photos of lots of things and minding their own business doing so. She's not sharing it with anyone, but when her pictures are taken and splashed all over the school, it reveals a lot of secrets and stirs up a lot of drama, and that's what this one is about. I love the cool colour, like the cool summer tones on this cover. Gorgeous, and I've heard very good things about it, so very excited for both of these, and thank you to Waypoint Books for their full moon book box subscription. For such a time as this is a proof copy. Shani Akila, who I follow on social media, so I know her from that aspect, and this is her debut short story collection, and I think the short stories span between Ghana and London and Jamaica, I'm remembering correctly, and it delves into various different things, but the important thing about it is black people who are trying to sustain their friendship group as they explore and grow up and change within the world. And that just sounds completely up my alley, as I love to read about friendship and I do love a good short story collection. Blessings by Chukwubuka Ibeya. This is about a black man who as a child is caught having an intimate moment with his friend, and his parents are saying that's a sin and it's terrible that he's doing this, and so they send him to a very strict Christian boarding school in the US. Fast forward a few years and now he's an adult who's a teacher, and he is trying to kind of reckon with the trauma that he has from having to oppress his sexuality and face what it means to kind of live his truth. And at the same time, someone from back home in Ghana appears in his life once again for the first time in a long time. So it's a lot about working through some of the like homophobic traumas that he's experienced to be able to open himself up to love, but it sounds like there may be some more drama things going on behind the scenes as well. 2 horror-based novels that went to my old flat and now I'm just getting now. So one of them is Boys in the Valley by Philip Fracassi, and this one is set in this isolated place where these boys are being raised by monks, and they do the same things. They worship, they live, and they eat under the supervision of these monks, when these strange people show up with lots of carvings and tattoos and symbols all over their body, and they start to intermingle with them and disrupt their way of life. And all of a sudden the boys are taking sides, and maybe they're going to be like caught in the crossfire if they don't like team up and learn how to communicate. And I feel like I'm not sure about that premise, but reviews have been super strong from people that I really like, so I'm going to give it a chance and see how it goes. And the other one that was sent to the flat was Red River 7 by AJ Ryan, and this one is about a group of men who wake up on a boat and they have no memory of how they got there and why they are there, and all they have is a screen that says moving towards destination point A. So the men decide that they're going to team up and face whatever is coming for them or wherever they're going together as a group, and they're going to have to trust and be loyal to each other. But as they approach their destination, they can hear screaming beyond the mist. Well, doesn't that just sound very intriguing? I have no idea what this book is going to give me, and I hope it will give me something good. This one sounds like it will be some gothic fun, and that's The Under History by Karen Warren. And in this one we're following a woman who is the sole survivor of a plane crashing into her life and crashing into her house, and killing everyone within it. And so what she does is, over the span of years, she rebuilds the house, and she gives people tours around this house telling ghost stories, even if she doesn't believe in ghosts herself. However, a group of men, now that she's an old lady, suddenly show up, and these are dangerous men. And what she decides to do is take them on the tour of the house. And as she does so, she reveals secrets and nooks and crannies which show these men that maybe this old maid is not as helpless as she seems. So this sounds like it's going to be like a house full of secrets and surprises and unexpected twists and turns. Maybe there will be ghosts, maybe there won't be ghosts, but I really like the premise and I'm hoping it's going to be a very fun read. I nabbed some things from Henna from perusing Hannah's unhaul, as I usually do when she unhauls books, and one of the things I stole from her was the complete trilogy of The Bear in the Nightingale by Catherine Arden. So we've got that one there first, then The Girl in the Tower and The Winter of the Witch to finish it off. I know that Henna loves this series, but this is the double copy of the series that she owns because she now has special editions, and so I'm looking forward to reading this. I just know it's written in a very fairy tale-esque manner and that the writing is beautiful and it's got magic in it, and that's pretty much all I really need to know to dive in. I've just heard so many of my friends say that they absolutely love this trilogy. I picked up a book from the charity shop, and that was Anxious People by Fredrik Backman. Now, what I know about this one is that it's a situation where a bank is being robbed and it goes into the minds of different people. This is one of his latest novels, and I also know, now that I've read his non-fiction one that's a bit memoir-y, that he himself was shot in a bank robbery situation. So I feel like even though it's going to be fiction, there's probably going to be ties of this that speak really true, and so I'm looking forward to seeing what this one is like, especially now that I know some of the backstory beyond this book. I read Fredrik Backman before. I know I'm in safe hands with his writing style. And then I also got my Waypoint Books subscription book, and she did a very good job with me this month. And one of the ones that I got, which was my surprise book, is 7 Days in June by Tia Williams. This is a literary romance. It's a black one. That's all I really know about it. I also know that it was a Reese Witherspoon book club pick, as that sticker there tells me, and that lots of people really loved it, and so I'm looking forward to trying it. This was actually one that was on my wish list, so Hannah couldn't have chosen a better surprise book for me. I was recently chatting to a friend extensively and convinced into becoming a subscription box girl, even though I'm not usually someone for subscription boxes. So Hannah, from Perusing Hannah, you are to blame for this. But I got the Evernight subscription box because it's horror and it only comes quarterly, so it doesn't feel like too much dedication for me. And so I got my first one, which was the Invocations by Crystal Sutherland, which I owned in proof, but now this beautiful hardback is in my hands and I am in love with the sprayed edges that make it look like a skeleton there. I just couldn't resist it. So I'm looking forward to reading this. I know it's kind of like murder mystery, I think it's got witchy vibes, and there's 3 girls involved, which are on the cover, and I'll probably tell you more after I've read this one. I was sent a review copy of Cara by Jennifer Saint. Jennifer Saint writes Greek mythology retellings that are following female characters in mythology. I haven't read any of them, but I've somehow managed to collect 4 of them now, so I will be reading one of them very shortly, because I could not have 4 books on a shelf by an author that I've never read before on my unread shelves. That is super embarrassing for me. So I really need to hurry up and read one of these books. Next Evernight subscription box book was Murder Road by Simone St. James. I have watched Simone St. James' career happen from afar. I remember when The Sundown Motel was coming out, and she has written plenty of horror and also thrillers since then. So I'm looking forward to trying Murder Road, and this one actually does sound like a supernatural episode to me. It's about a couple who are driving a car and they come across a woman in the middle of the road, and she's like, "I'm so sorry, he's coming," and everything follows after that. And what I love about this one is not even the sprayed edges. What I think I love most about it is the under the dust jacket, which is like a map to the setting, because I don't actually love the original cover that much, so this is better and I am looking forward to trying it. I've also been supporting the Nibby's Discoveries shortlist, so you'll see some of those books here, even though the award will have definitely been announced by the time this goes up. One of the books that I was sent as part of that is Page Boy by Elliot Page, and I've had this on my wish list ever since it came out. And this is Elliot Page's memoir, who is an out and trans actor, and it's about his journey and his experience. We have 2 classics. So the first one was because it was on sale for £3, and that is The Hounds of the Baskerville by Arthur Conan Doyle. And so this is one of the Sherlock Holmes novels, and in my opinion it's the best of Sherlock Holmes. If you are going to read the Sherlock Holmes collection, The House of the Baskervilles is the best one, and I really liked it. I remember when I was reading throughout the complete Sherlock Holmes works, which I've already read, and I picked this one up because it fits with the Penguin Classics paperbacks, library editions, which is what I collect. And I also got in the charity shop The Mill on the Floss by George Eliot. I've not read anything by George Eliot before, but I saw this stunning, like really good condition of this classic, and I thought, I am going to get it. I know nothing of what it's about, just that I do want to read something by George Eliot at some point. I probably won't even start here, but I couldn't leave it in the shop, so it's now part of my collection. Back to Hannah's unhaul. She was unhauling some young adult by black authors, and I could not resist because one of them was American Street by Ibiza Boy, and if you've been on my channel a while, you know that I am a big fan of Ibiza Boy. I've read several of her books now, and American Street is probably one of her most famous. I think this is the one that kind of kicked off her career, and that's all I know. I also picked up from her unhaul 2 books by Tiffany D. Jackson. So this is another black young adult, mostly thriller writer, I want to say. So we've got White Smoke, which I've actually already read in proof, but I really wanted a finished copy, so I'm happy to have grabbed this from Hannah's unhaul, and I'm going to unhaul my proof eventually. And this is a horror book, I would say, where a black family move into this house, and it's really weird. They can hear creaks and different sounds, and there's something wrong in this town. And also she has OCD, and she's really worried about bed bugs consistently. So she's got those kind of OCD tendencies going on. She's not fitting in this small town, and something is strange within the house. I really like this. I think it was a very good time. And then we have Allegedly by Tiffany D. Jackson, which I think is one of her earliest novels, if I'm not mistaken, and this one falls more into the thriller category. I haven't read it yet. I don't know what it's about, but after reading White Smoke, I'm just happy to read another book by this author. As part of that Nibby's Discovery list, I was also sent Sunburn by Chloe Michelle Halworth. I believe it was Scott Scott from Gunpowder Fiction and Plot, who I saw talking about this one originally, and this one is set in historical Ireland, and it's about these girls who have this really close friendship. They're in a small town, and I believe that they end up in a relationship. I think this is like lesbian fiction, and so I will read it because it's lesbian fiction set in Ireland. A bit of a weakness purchase. I was in the works and it was only £2, so I decided to get Tastes Like Shikar by Nisha Sharma. So I've read Nisha Sharma before many years ago when I had my book blog, and I think it was one of her first books, if not her debut book. So it's been many years since then, and this one, I believe it is a retelling of, yes, A Much Ado About Nothing spicy and sweet retelling. Okay, sure, I will read A Much Ado About Nothing retelling. That's really all I needed to know. Shakespeare retelling, and I'll put it in my bag. As you know, I do really love Shakespeare, so anything kind of based on it or related to it I will read. And this was the second half of my Waypoint Books box subscription for the month, and this is The Isle of the Gods by Amy Kaufman. Hannah had to work quite hard to reach this book because she kept recommending books to me, and I was like, read that, own that, read that, because she was doing such a good job of nailing my taste. And then we got to this, which is a bit of a risk one for me because it does involve pirates and it's also sci-fi, and so I will see how I go because I don't typically like pirates, but I do love sci-fi, and maybe the blend of that could work well for me. Next two are charity shop ones, so again, different occasions when I was donating books. I saw Vampire Weekend by Mike Chen there, and it was called Vampire Weekend, okay, so I was intrigued because it's vampires. It's also by an Asian author, and I've heard really good things about Mike Chen's books, mostly his sci-fi, and I haven't heard anything about his supernatural before. I didn't even know he did supernatural, but I've been meaning to read him for years, and so I think it's high time I try. And so this one is kind of doing a nitty gritty take on vampires where it's a bit more grounded and grittier than the glamorous sparkling vampires that we sometimes get, and I still adore. Also from a charity shop, I saw Some Desperate Glory by Amy Tesh, and I was so happy because this is a book I have had on my wish list since before it came out. It's a retelling, a sci-fi retelling of Antony and Cleopatra by Shakespeare. As you can see, staying on theme here, Shakespeare retelling, and that's all I really needed to know about it to put it on my wish list. But since then, from people who have not originally read Antony and Cleopatra, I've seen quite negative reviews, but people who have read the original play and understand that it's a retelling seem to like it. So I didn't want to buy a full price hardback, but I did want to give this book a try nonetheless because I still believe it could probably be one for me, and so finding it in a charity shop for £3 was absolutely perfect. I cannot wait to try this book. From Hannah's Unhaul, I also got Recursion by Blake Crouch. This is another one of his sci-fi books. I have only read his like thriller, historical fiction thriller, but I had the best time and I give it 5 stars, and since then I've just been amassing Blake Crouch books because I'm sure that I'm going to love every single thing he writes, and I need to actually read one and find out. I had a rainy day and I decided to treat myself to a book I've already read but I do not own, just so that I wasn't growing my TBR throughout this rainy day. And I also have a list of books that I have read and want to own because I want to add them to my collection. So I picked up Supplicant by Sarah Simone. So I love Sarah Simone books. I have been blitzing through her works. It's been 6 months of not reading, like not going a single month without having read at least 1 or 2 Sarah Simone books, and Supplicant is one I've already read multiple times. It's a really short book and it's about these 2 characters, one of whom is called Church, and he left her at the altar. So she was left at the altar, heartbroken, and then goes home to discover that her father has taken all of her money and run off, leaving her to be a primary guardian to her younger brother who is at a child age. So she drops out of uni and she's working, and 4 years later she sees her ex-fiance for the first time since she was left at the altar. And so starts this book. It's basically an epic grovel and I love it. I love it to pieces, and so I'm very happy to be able to add this one to my shelf. We have 2 books from Fourth Estate who know how to treat me well. These are both translated fiction works. One is Bad Habit by Alana S. Portero and the other is Clean by Alia Trebaka Zeran. Now, what I understand of Bad Habit is that it's a translated fiction with a trans main character, and I don't think I've read that before. I don't think I've read trans representation in something that is translated. I believe this is translated from Spanish. A coming of age about a trans woman in Madrid in the last decades of the 20th century. I was just so excited to read this, And then we've got Clean, which the cover to this one just stole my heart for some reason and I couldn't stop looking at it. I think they did a fantastic job with the cover. This one is about Estella, who is the maid to a wealthy family, and she is talking to us from a locked room. We don't know who has locked her in this room or why she's been locked in this room, but she begins to tell us of her plight and what has been going on. So that's how this novel starts, and that is very much an intriguing plot. So I'm very much looking forward to reading these two translated fiction books. We have a copy of Dead Girl Walking by Sammy Ellis, so thank you very much to the publisher for sending me this my way. And this is a young adult black author slasher, and it's about the daughter of a serial killer. So her mum has been dead for several years and she did not think that her dad was the one who murdered her, but when the dad is convicted and on death row, he confesses to the fact that he did murder her mother. So she goes back to the camp where her serial killer dad used to live in the hopes of finding her mother's body. But while she is there, a girl ends up murdered in the woods, and it seems like whoever is or whoever has murdered this girl is doing it in the style of her serial killer father. So she kind of gets tangled up in that and wants to solve it, which just sounds like such a good premise for a horror book, and I hope it's going to be a really good time. And I am digging the cover so much. It took me a while to realise that in the red smoke you can see faces, but that just perfect. We've got some middle grade here. So first of all, thank you so much to HarperCollins for sending me a copy of Fireborn, Starling and the Cavern of Light by Aisling Fowler. This is the third and final book to the Fireborn trilogy, which I have been loving so much. I read the first one when it came out and the second one last year, which made it onto my best books of the year video. The only middle grade book I put on the best books of the year video, just so you know how good it was, and I adored it. So I'm very much looking forward to seeing how this trilogy ends. It's got a found family friendship group at its core, and it's a fantasy adventure with really, really good world building. And the way that everything ended in the second book was such a cliffhanger of drastic measures, and I do not know how everything is going to be wrapped up and resolved in this last book, but I'm going to have a blast reading it. And then from Hannah's Unhold, The Last True Poets of the Sea by Julia Drake. I am literally going to be repeating myself here, but this is a Shakespeare retelling of Twelfth Night. It's a young adult contemporary retelling of Twelfth Night, and so I wanted to try it for a very, very long time. It also, I know from reviews that it talks about grief extensively, so it's just basically covering two of my buzzwords, and I have been curious about it and I'm finally going to be able to get the chance to read it. So thank you, Hannah, for unholding this my way. So this is a gender swapped Beauty and the Beast retelling. It's called Beastly Beauty by Jennifer Donnelly, and this one is about a woman who is she just wants to take up space, she just wants to be herself, but people call her too loud, too much, and they say that it makes her beastly. And when an attempt to maintain her emotions and contain them backfires, she ends up cursed and trapped in this building, this mansion, but then a Bayou comes by and he might be the one to break her curse. So it's essentially a feminist gender swapped Beauty and the Beast retelling, and I was intrigued. So here we have a horror book. It's an entertaining horror book, I think, and it's called The Afterlife of Mal Cadera by Nadi Reed Perez. And in this one you're following Mal, who dies at the beginning of the story and is living her afterlife. But she's a bit sad that she died because she's left her sister to her super Catholic family, and she doesn't want her sister to feel so lonely. So she wants to send a message to her sister, and she starts to work with a medium and able to do that. But when she's working with this medium, they might start developing feelings for each other. The only problem is she's dead and he's not. So it's about that sisterly relationship, but it's also about what they're going to do with their love situation. Oh, I've got The Last Shield here by Cameron Johnson, and this is one I picked up simply because the premise of it sounded so good. So thank you for Angry Robots for sending me a copy, and it was described to me as a gritty, action-packed version of Die Hard set in a fantasy world. So basically a castle is being attacked and is under attack, and this main character ends up being the only person left who can hold the castle, and that is her job, to do everything within her power to hold the castle and fend off the people who are attacking it, which sounds exactly like Die Hard when he was the one in the building to fend them off on his own. And so I will read it. That's all I needed to know. I don't think many of you guys who watch my channel know this, but I'm a huge fan of Die Hard 1, 2, 1 and 2 in particular, but I have seen some of the others, and I've watched Die Hard 1 multiple times. I love it, and I rewatch it and I rewatch it. Thank you to Penguin Platform for sending me a proof of Wild East by Ashley Hickson Lovance, and this one is a black novel in verse where it's following Ronnie. He is a boy who wants to become a rapper, and he gets moved to a school, a mostly white school. He's moved out of East London for the very first time with his mother, and when he goes to his new school and is feeling lonely and isolated, they bring in a poet, and he discovers that spoken word poetry could be quite similar to rapping in some ways, and starts to develop some poetry skills. And it's kind of giving me Male the Poet X vibes in some ways, but also set in the UK, which is quite groundbreaking to me, and I'm looking forward to seeing what Ashley does with that writing. I really want to read this one soon. A translated proof, and that is for The Mark by Faridah Isberg, so thank you to Faber for sending this my way. And I read The Test by Sylvia Novel as my first book of the year, which is about a kind of entrance test that you have to do to become a citizen, and there's a lot more sinister things behind this test than what it seems on the surface. But this is something similar, and it's where a group of people come together and say, should there be a test that new citizens take, and if so, what should that consist of? And it's a bit like dystopian-y and discussion-y around that topic, and so I thought this could be really interesting as one to read. So I'm going to give it a go, especially as I've never read anything Icelandic before, I don't think, so this will be a first for me as well. And then last but not least, I have a graphic novel to haul in for you, and that is The Worst Ronin, which is written by the author of Squad, Maggie Takuda Hall, and the art is by Faith Schaffer. And this one is about a young girl who is understanding that it's super difficult to be a samurai, and she ends up having to pair with another samurai to pursue glory and all of the things that she wants in life. But while they are fighting off demons and fending for each other, that doesn't mean that she can run from the feelings that she's feeling inside of her. So I think this is sapphic too. I'm gonna give this one a go. That is all of the books I have to show you today. Please let me know in the comment section down below what's the latest book you have bought, received, borrowed or acquired. Please leave a book stack emoji if you get this far into the video and you don't have anything you want to say. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, hit the subscribe button if you want to see more, and don't forget to hit that notification bell to be updated every time I have a new video. And you know what they say, onwards and upwards. Excelsior!